A Hamilton man who gave first aid to some of those critically injured says he poured cold water over their severely burned bodies and kept talking to them to stop them falling unconscious as the tour boat made a desperate return to shore. Geoff Hopkins says steam, or a combination of steam and sulphuric acid, looked to have caused horrific burns to many of the victims. I asked him where he was at the time of the eruption.
We had finished our tour of the island, had returned to our boat, and were just having a little tour around some of the bays just a few hundred metres offshore when it erupted.
And when did you realise what was going on?
Not instantly. It was very quiet, but there was definitely an attention-grabbing moment from everybody on the boat that caught our attention. We turned around, and then we could see the eruption.
What could you see exactly?
So to start with, it was just a big, beautiful cloud that was rising, that was white and grey, and for a second it kind of just grabbed your attention. And then seconds after, this menacing, rolling cloud of ash kind of just rolled over the cliff and sort of headed out and down to sea, at which point we were all ushered inside the cabin of the boat, and the boat took off pretty quick.
Did you realise that there were other people still there? Could you see them?
Couldn't see them at that point. You couldn't see as we got inside the boat and went back round the other side. You couldn't see the island at all. The island was just completely covered in falling ash.
So did your boat return to pick some of the people up?
Yeah, so we went back to where we had left, to where the other boat had been anchored, launched the inflatable, and the crew, at that stage the ash had cleared, and we could see clearly on the island there were some people in the water, and there were people down on the island, and the inflatable started picking people up and bringing them back to our boat.
And when those people came onto your boat, what could you see? What kind of injuries? How were they?
Couldn't see anything initially. We were still in the cabin, but then there was a call for doctors. We indicated we were first aiders. By the time maybe 2 or 3 people are on the boat, we went out to help, and pretty much everybody that was coming on were just with significant burns.
To all parts of their body, Geoff?
Mainly exposed skin. So people with T-shirts and shorts were arms and legs and faces. Exposed skin was probably the worst, but the more critical were burned through their clothing. So
I have seen a picture of a person who seems also to be covered in ash. Was that the case with some of the people you saw?
There was a lot of ash. I didn't see, there may be 1 or 2 that were quite grey over most of their body, but a lot of people had maybe on their face or, there wasn't there was a lot of ash about. And in fact, today I can still smell the ash on my hands. I can't get it off, the smell that must be sort of stuck into everything. There was a lot of ash. The other boat that was moored looked like it had been spray-painted grey. It was just perfectly covered, every part of it, in ash.
So what did you and the others on board try and do to help these people? What were you able to do?
So we just started to treat burns. So we were just using. We had a lot of fresh water on board, so we were able to use fresh water. We just called out for any containers that we could use, and we got people to start filling them up. Just starting to pour cool fresh water over people's burns. More critical ones, we needed to remove clothing and wrap them up. And reassure people, and then as time went on, shock starts to set in, and so then it's about trying to keep people warm and really reassure them.
I understand paramedics joined your boat at some point. Is that correct?
Yeah. So then we left at some point after the. I was just busy treating people, so I'm not sure what the trigger was for us leaving, but we started heading back. About halfway back, we met a Coast Guard boat, put 2 paramedics on board, and they were able to assist, but not a lot you can really do. A bit of pain relief and just assessing people. Yeah.
And were they able to administer pain relief?
The 2 people that I were with, we couldn't get a vein to get anything into them intravenously. So no.
And Geoff, who were you with in terms of the people you were trying to help? Who were they?
So the couple, the American couple that have been on the news with their honeymoon, that was the 2 people that I was with.
That must have been shocking for you. Have you dealt with anything like this before?
No, nothing. Yeah, nothing like this at all.
And so their injuries, what were they like?
Critical burns, yeah. Critical burns, yeah. I mean, they were in and out of consciousness, so just really just trying to keep them alive until we could get them to shore.
And what were you doing for them? Pouring water on their bodies?
No, that's at that stage trying to keep them warm and keep them conscious. So just a lot of talking to them, a lot of reassuring, and just trying to keep them warm.
And were they able to respond to you, Geoff, when you spoke to them?
On and off, yeah.
Were there any children who were brought onto your boat?
No children on our boat.
Were you able to get a sense of where these people were when the eruption happened?
When we went on for our tour, we were split into 2 groups, and I think that's probably the norm. It's my impression that tour group that was still on the island was in 2 groups, and the people that we rescued were in the first group that had already been to the crater and were making their way back. So that's my impression, that these people were already on their way back towards the beach area, and they're the ones that we rescued. The ones that were unable to rescue, I believe, were probably closer to the crater at the time and in the second group.
Obviously, there were extensive burn injuries, but did you notice any others, traumatic injuries from rockfall or anything like that?
No, my daughter treated someone with a head injury, but we believe that was from a fall. There was nothing to suggest anybody had been hit by anything.
That must have felt like the longest boat ride you've ever been on in your life.
It actually felt like the quickest one, I think, because we focused on what we were doing, and when you're focusing on what you're doing, at the time it just felt like it was hurry up, but when you're focused on just trying to keep someone, it feels like someone's life is dependent on you, then you are focused. We suffer from a little bit of seasickness, but there was no seasickness on the way back. We didn't even really notice what the sea was doing. But it is a long journey back here, definitely.
When you left the island, could you see any others still there?
The tour boat from that second group that were on the island was still there. We left behind our inflatable with definitely, I think one of our crew, maybe others, maybe 2 of our crew stayed behind, and they came back on the second tour boat. Something like maybe half. I think they came back into Tiny about half an hour after us, something like that. I was at the front of the boat, so I didn't see when we left. But yeah.
So, Geoff, is it your impression that some of the crew members stayed back with one of those small boats to try and ferry others, if there were others, off the island?
Yeah, definitely. The small boats stayed behind with the one that was covered in ash. Yeah.
When the explosion happened, can you just tell me about what you could smell, and was the air any denser, or what was it like?
We were on the boat and very quickly ushered inside. So nothing to smell, and no issue at all with us breathing. We kept out of the ash. The ash, as it engulfed the island, and it did completely engulf the island, get dark while we were in the shadow of that ash cloud, but there was nothing. And then when we were ferrying people onto the boat, the ash had fallen by then. We weren't in the direction of anything that was still steaming from the crater, so there was, it was quite safe for us as far as gas or anything falling.
Geoff, did you get the impression that the burns that people suffered were from steam or from hot ash sticking to people?
I originally thought it was hot ash, but I'm not sure what it was that caused the burn, but potentially steam, or I'm not even sure if there's an acid element to it. I don't know. People were burned underneath their clothing, and their clothing looked fine. You'd lift someone's shirt, and the shirt was in perfect condition, but there would be terrible burns underneath it. Potentially, yes, steam. I'd not thought of steam.
What happened when you got to shore?
As soon as we got to shore, very quickly we were met with a lot of ambulances, policemen, firefighters, and as soon as we were at shore, very quick assessment of who was critical. We'd already kind of made that decision ourselves on the boat with the paramedics that we had with them, who we had critical, and we'd already had a plan of who was going to come off first. So that happened quite quickly. We were able to just put bands on people. Their names were recorded. They were put onto boards and lifted off and straight into ambulances.
Thank you so much for talking to us. I really appreciate your time and your service for helping those people. So thank you so much.
Thanks.